Peace and blessings, family. Thank you so much for being here. This is your boy Sam Boney. I'm an herbalist and astrologer, and I am here to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sending me a tip via Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. That continues to give me so much life. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for going to Spotify, listening to Can't Help Myself. Thank you for going to Tidal or Pandora or YouTube or whatever your streaming platform is, listening to the song Can't Help Myself. Enjoy it. Listen to it, turn it on, and don't listen to it. That's cool too. Thank you so much for being here. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. So this week is the way that I'm thinking about it this week is this is a good week to realize that the plan isn't working. So there's a couple of things going on here for that. First is Venus is moving into Virgo. So Venus out of Leo into Virgo is going to take Venus off of axis. It's going to take Venus out of an opposition to Saturn in Aquarius. We like that. That's helpful. That is super helpful because Venus hasn't been comfortable for a long time. And anytime, any planet that has to oppose Saturn is just going to feel the kind of drudgery, the difficulty of the weight, the burden, the obstacle, the challenge that Saturn is. And so Venus, who hasn't been comfortable in quite a while at this point, in Leo, trying to be out here shining, and it's just not really happening. Got to work super hard to do that. As Venus moves into Virgo, this doesn't make a comfortable Venus, but at least we get a trine to Uranus instead of a square, so it's less contentious. And, as we think so Venus in Virgo is going to be Venus in Virgo has this hawk eye, right? It sees the problem. It's really good. Anytime I see somebody with Venus in Virgo in a natal chart, I'm always like, look, can we put you on copy editing? Can we put you on revision? Can we put you on quality control some type of way? Because Venus in Virgo is great at noticing the flaws in things. When you're in a friendly context, this can be a problem. If somebody shows you, oh, I'm so proud of this cake that I made, and you're like, what about this bullshit over in the corner here? Then that's not a good way to make friends, right? But if somebody's like, I'm about to sell this product, will you look it over before I do that? And you're like, what about this bullshit in the corner here? And you'd be like, whew, I didn't notice that. Thank you so much for noticing that so I can touch that up before somebody else did, right? See how the context is everything here, right? So Venus in Virgo, really good for that. Every year Venus goes into Virgo, and every year I talk about Beyonce because obviously that's what I'm going to do. I haven't heard a better image for Venus in Virgo than Beyonce's Pretty Hurts. Pretty hurts, shine your light on whatever's worse. Perfection is a disease of a nation. It's your soul that needs a surgery. That last line is kind of whatever. But those first three, very much about this idea of aesthetic perfection and how perfection is the enemy of the good, right? It's hard to get anything done if it has to be perfect all the time. This is why Venus is considered in fall in Virgo. So that's kind of where Venus is for a little while. We're going to have this Venus for a few weeks here. And so seeing that go on here is especially important because this is also under a square from Mars and Gemini, and both of these are ruled by Mercury. So what's going on with Mercury? Well, Mercury is in Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. So we've got Venus and Mercury ruling each other here. Typically, this is a situation that I'm like, all right, this is helpful. Even if they're not making an aspect to each other, they're sympathetic, they're gonna help each other out. Thing is, Venus is uncomfortable in Virgo, and so might be a little nitpicky, might be a little critical, might be a little tough on your feelings, and that sort of thing, right? Mercury, at the same time, is stationing retrograde this week. And so we all know what a Mercury station looks like, right? This is difficult communications. This is your electronics being weird. It's a really great time to back up your documents. It's a really good time to save, resave, check things again. Check in on the people who you said something to and then they didn't respond to you. Look over what you said. Did they hear what you said or did they hear what they heard, right? There's a gap always in between saying and listening. And whenever there's a Mercury retrograde or a Mercury station, then it's going to be extra important to over communicate, to make sure that everything is completely clear, because it's going to be super easy, especially if there's an element of criticism or something like this. And people, you know, Venus is coming out of Leo, right? So this has been hard on the heart thing. It's been hard. We've had several weeks of Saturn being like, no, 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 right? It's not good enough and this kind of thing. So if somebody shows up and is like, what is this bullshit in the corner? Then that might hurt somebody's feelings. And if somebody's feelings get hurt, then their ears close up. You see what I'm saying here? And so this is part of the thing that we're going to navigate here. Now, of course, with Mercury retrograde, then we're always going to be looking at retrograde motion. We're going to be looking at going backwards, retracing steps. We have to look at it again. We have to revise. We have to review. All of our rewords show up. We got to do it again, right? So all of this shows up here. And this is part of what I mean about, like, this is how we start to see that, like, the plan isn't really working the way that we want it to, you know, like we've got the criticism on the one hand, and we've got the retrograde motion on the other hand, and those ruling each other, they're working together, right? And in fact, once we get the Mercury station direct, that's going to be directly conjunct Venus in Virgo. Also, that's going to be opposite to Neptune in Pisces, where it's not time for that. I'm going to talk about that in a couple of weeks. But what we see here is more confusion. Right now in the timeline with this Mercury station retrograde and Venus moving into Virgo, we see confusion. We see a sense of like, okay, we got to go back and see about this again. What the larger timeline shows us is that confusion is part of the thing. And so one of the things that we're going to have to do with this Mercury retrograde is get into confusion, get into paradoxical truths and this kind of thing. How can it be possible? How is A possible if B is also happening at the same time? How is this even working? But they are working. They are both happening here. So we got to sort of, there's a mind expansion thing here. Like if your mind does not encapsulate the actual experience of events, then it's your mind, it's your thinking that's wrong, right? You have to change, because if miracles are actually happening, but you don't have a concept for miracles, then you're going to look past them, right? But if there are miracles that are actually happening, then maybe you need to build that into your model of reality, right? That's kind of the thing that we're doing here. So as far as like imaginative world building and stuff is concerned, then the full moon in Pisces is a real good way to think with that. So the full moon in Pisces is coming off of a square to Mars in Gemini. It's also moving toward conjunction to Neptune in Pisces. Neptune in Pisces is very imaginative, very phantasmagoric, very like dreamy, and wants to get into like, it doesn't want to be bound by borders or any of these kind of restrictions or constrictions of like physical reality or any of that shit. Neptune really wants to get out into the wider ether of possibility and all this sort of stuff, right? So the full moon in Pisces, opposite to the sun in Virgo, right? That's what the full moon is. The full moon is always opposite to the sun. That is going to sort of like shine this bright light on the reflective capacity of the deep ocean, Neptune and Pisces dream sort of stuff. This is interesting also because at the same time, the sun in Virgo is making a trine to Uranus and Taurus. I've been talking about Uranus and Taurus as necessity is the mother of invention, right? Uranus and Taurus has this hard Saturn on top of it. That's the necessity. And Uranus is very inventive. It's innovative. It wants to try new things. It wants to experiment, all this sort of stuff. A trine aspect to the sun in Virgo, we can remember that the sun in Virgo is going to be very sort of like data oriented. It wants to like find out how the thing actually works. It's very engineering, right? So that innovative capacity makes a trine a supportive, a friendly aspect to this engineering capacity as well. That combined with the opposition to the moon in Pisces with Neptune, big imaginative qualities here, right? So there's definitely a lot here to be said about thinking outside the box. And in fact, this is a pretty thinky kind of week and time. I don't know that we are actually going to find good solutions this week. I don't know that we are going to solve problems, but I do think that it's possible to deconstruct the boundaries that have kept us in these patterns. Anyway, that's my whole 10 minutes. Get on ZamboniFunk.com. Check it out.